I would recommend that manufacturing locally through a third party, for me, is the option I would highly recommend to just try things out, because it would then sort of take care of what would have been the freight costs and even the duties, and one would have to think of the sugar tax on importation, and all those factors. So for those reasons, I would really recommend local manufacturing through a third party.
Okay, okay, makes a lot of sense. Almost every country would push back through taxes or policies on importation. And, we would be happy for outside investors to come and set up shop completely, from production to the end, which is sales. And that makes a lot of sense. So if you can partner with someone on the ground or contract someone on the ground to produce for you, that will be like a win-win where you can enter the market, but at the same time, avoid many of the, bottlenecks that will prevent you from running a viable operation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so on a final note, there's a big elephant in the room, and that's COVID-19. It would be nice, given your experience on the continent, to just provide some context around how this phenomenon of COVID-19 would affect FMCG business going forward, in your view.
So I'm thinking the unprecedented events of the lockdowns that have been effective globally, and as well as on our continent and in our own countries as such. I foresee certain habits and new consumer behaviors that will probably last for good, and probably even for the long term at the very least. For example, I anticipate that when we come out of lockdown, I think we should look at the world in a new way. I think it's important that we probably consider this period we've just gone through as some hibernation of sorts, whereby we were forcibly having to stay indoors and for a length of time. But when we come out, we're really likely to come out to a world that is different in quite a number of ways. And I foresee consumer behaviors that will probably be different. For example, in terms of food consumption, I actually foresee families probably doing takeouts, but actually consuming those indoors. And in my mind, it's probably something that probably has been entrenched in the last couple of weeks. But I foresee it being something that's driven by the growing e-commerce trend that's sort of taking shape in Africa, in South Africa, as well as in Nigeria. And at the same time, I foresee families wanting to play it safe and not so much wanting to be in crowded places, but wanting to have pizza and eat out, but doing that maybe from indoors. So I see those dynamics, development of e-commerce, the new social habits, and the encouragement of social distancing, and all those coming together into those kind of new behaviors for families. And I also tend to see that coming out of this pandemic, the new lessons that will probably come out is things like African countries realizing that markets that they rely on strongly for as their export markets, like the US and EU, and even China for that matter, while the markets that they've always relied on for the longest time, it is COVID-19 would indicate that there are markets that can be affected by other events, as we've just realized. And I think that point reinforces the whole thinking around Africa continental free trade agreement, and it makes it even more imperative that Africa needs to start trading with itself more. So I want to believe that while this the trend has started, and a lot of basically the train has left the station, but it makes it even more important to encourage that development, to ensure that Africa intra-Africa trade is reinforced and is encouraged to take place even quicker and even more so from the events that we have seen.
I agree, Raymond. Very solid points. And you know, it's been an ongoing conversation within African countries and, you know, across the continent. And that is that we need to begin to grow, produce, originate what we consume. So at the national level, African countries, you know, are increasingly now seeing that, you know, you just can't import your way. You can't just continue to consume, import your consumption. You need to begin to look inwards as a country and as a continent. And you know, it's almost the free trade agreement is almost, you know, was almost designed and put in motion as if in preparation for COVID-19, because if there's a time we need it, that time is now. So yes, I agree. We need to really, you know, begin to fast track, because in any case, the rest of the world is also looking inward. So if there's also one thing that this pandemic has taught us, it's the fact that, you know, countries and continents are beginning to look inwards at self-sufficiency, and Africa also shouldn't be left wanting.
And is how we so depend on each other and how we are so interlinked. So in an interesting and almost strange way, it is reinforced both those points at the same time. But yeah, but that's the way I see it. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Great interview, great chatting with you, Raymond. And we hope to have this conversation again. You know, you're a fountain of, you know, FMCG knowledge across the continent. So the expectation is to have you again to pick on another, you know, FMCG topic and have it fully dissected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Toby, and I look forward to it.